Hey, welcome back. Through the last lesson, we have set up our CRA app. So now let's take a look at how we can use React's APIs to build our application. So you can head straight to the index.tsx file that you have here directly inside your source folder. Now this is the entry point for your React project. You can take a quick look at the imports here. Now you have React as well as React DOM being imported here. The React DOM is what is used to mount our components onto our actual HTML or our actual DOM. Now, our app.tsx file here is a very simple React component that we simply copy pasted in the previous lesson. Before we go there, let's kind of refactor this into a even more simpler hello world example. So I'm going to remove all of this and simply say h1 and hello world. And let's switch back here and see what happened. Okay, so what happened here is if you inspect the DOM here, what you're going to see is we have a simple div named root. Inside that we have a hello world. So what happened here? Now, before I explain what happened here, let me tell you that I will be using the terms DOM and virtual DOM a lot in this and a couple of other lessons as well. Now, when I say DOM, I am referring to the changes that you see in your browser in exactly here in your actual DOM. And when I say React DOM or virtual DOM, I'm talking about us telling React to do something. For instance, here, when we say React DOM.render, we are telling React to render this. This is what we refer to as virtual DOM or React DOM. And the actual DOM that you see here is what we refer to as DOM or the real DOM. Okay. Now, when we run the npm start, our server gets started and we have a simple page here that says hello world. We have a div id with root, and inside that we have a h1 with hello world. So how did this come into formation? Now, if you open up the index.html file over here inside your public folder, you'll see that it's just an empty body with a div named id root. And what does React DOM.render do? React DOM.render finds the element named with the ID root, and inside that it adds a React component with h1 hello world inside it. So it's kind of works quite similar to you writing something like document dot get element by ID of root.inner HTML is equal to h1 hello world. It's kind of similar to that, but then here we are telling React DOM or the virtual DOM to do it, and then React takes care of making it reflect onto the actual DOM. Now here we are simply directly telling React to display an h1. So let's talk a bit more about React elements or React components. Now, React has another API known as React.create element. Now, this has a couple of parameters that you pass here. The first one here will be the type. Now, I'm going to say I want to pass an element of type h1. And the next one is props. Now this is a dictionary or object which contains all of the different properties that you want to pass here. So I'm going to say that I want the ID to be heading. I'm also going to say that I want the class name to be text excel, and then I'm going to say I want the children to be the word. So these are the three parameters that you pass on to the create element function. So first you pass the type, of the element. Second, you pass the uh, props or the properties of the element. And third, you pass the children of the element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this up here. I'm going to say that this account's named heading. I'm going to use heading here instead of writing each one here. Let's see how that worked out. Okay, so now we have a hello world here, and inside our hello world, uh, our hello world is a h1 with an id of heading and a class of text excel. Now this is a couple of um, specialities that React has is, since JavaScript has a keyword named class, you you'd want to specify classes as class name here. There are a few others as well. Uh, Now this is our start. So other than classes being class name, we are passing all of the different properties of our element here. Now we have named it as our heading element, and we are asking React DOM to render that. Okay, now that's looks nice. Now let's use Tailwind to simply say that this has to be in the center. It goes to the center. Now I'm gonna say I want it to have padding on the top and bottom, simply so that it's not at the very top. Just some random styling I put there. Awesome. So I'm going to explain this once more. So we have h1 here, which is the type of the element. We have a dictionary or a object here, which has a couple of keys which act as the properties of that element. And then we have the children of the element, which are the contents inside the tag. This is how you would make a React element. Now, the content inside a certain element can be a text like this, or you could also possibly keep a React element inside a React element. For instance, if I want to wrap around the React element that we have here inside a div container, an additional div container other than the root div container that we normally have. So I'm going to say that I'm creating an element of type dev, and I want to say I'm going to put some classes there. I'm gonna say flex. I'm gonna keep it with the full height of the screen. I'm gonna add a background color of that. And I'm gonna put it exactly at the center of our screen. And here inside the div container that we have, I'm gonna keep my heading here. I'm gonna keep this on top, and I'm gonna render the div container into the reactor. So how did that end up looking like? Okay, so we have the container with the full length, and at the center of that we have the hello world heading we have. So what happened here is we have a div, and inside the div we have the h1. So we have a div container element, and inside that, as its child, we are specifying another React element. Now, you could practically design an entire web page or an entire tree of HTML elements similar to this. But then you might think this isn't exactly a very elegant way to build web apps, given that we end up writing a lot more code than the HTML that we actually generate. Now, if you thought so, you would be correct as well. To tackle this, we will learn to use JSX in the next lesson to write React code much more similar to our HTML, and also to reduce the amount of code that we write in order to make it a lot more robust. See you in the next lesson.